and welcome to Farscape.
A Farscape fan cast by a fervent fan.
And a fresh-faced first-timer.
I'm Kaki.
I'm Kay. And this is the story Farscape.
Oh, God, we're so close.
We're getting there.
So
we're getting there. So the story Farscape.
Yes.
Okay,
tell us about the show so far.
We have Crichton, who is ostensibly trying to find a way home after being slung through space, at least, maybe even time.
Yes, very good.
And he's now in a distant part of the universe. But to be honest, I haven't seen him really try at all to get any back home so far.
So you noticed that, right?
Yeah.
Like he hasn't asked for any maps.
I need to see some star charts, get some common points of reference. Damn. This ship is amazing.
Maybe a little bit at first, but it hasn't really been a priority to figure out where he is.
There have been no actions by him on screen, at least. Showing that he is trying to get back home. He's not trying to make inquiries, not trying to figure out if anything knows about home. Stellar cartography, maybe, but even that was only barely referenced in the second episode or something like that.
How would he do it? How? Yeah, I mean, think about it. Right, with the knowledge that that a NASA scientist has, or IASA as he is. Yeah. How would you describe where Earth is to somewhere when you're elsewhere?
Well, with the on the Golden Record, they did it by mapping out, I believe, the 8 nearest pulsars and the directions to them or something like that. Basically, they had something about the frequency of the pulsars and then pointing out, okay, we can see these in this relationship to each other and something like that. Or as they do it in Battlestar Galactica, they have the constellations which have been adjusted for drift. And I can assume that
right, that's true.
If you take constellations which you know that are made up out of galaxies rather than stars, then you can use those to at least try and determine whether you're in the same galaxy or not.
Because they're not going to drift that much over. Yeah, because I mean that's the problem if you use stars.
Oh yes.
If you happen to be on the other side of the star or closer to it, then it's going to be in a very different position just because we're looking at those. But yeah, when you're looking at galaxies, everyone in this galaxy is looking at the other galaxy
more or less.
Years ago.
There's going to be a little bit of what's the word?
Temporal parallax, I guess.
Parallax, yeah, that's the word. Well, just not temporal, but just parallax in general.
Also, what I mean is that when you're closer to something, you see a more recent image of it because the light has taken less time to travel to you, right?
That too. Yeah.
So you've got spatial parallax.
Yeah.
We're getting into the science, which is kind of cool because it's relevant to this week's episode.
You're coming with me. We may need a nerd.
Other than that, it's been more or less just the problem of the week, which we've been seeing so far.
Yes, that is very fair to say. It's very episodic.
Rygel's kidnapping and having to get him back because he took apart the ship. And that was kind of cute. So I guess we're having a back an entirely on the ship episode again, rather than a we're on some planet episode,
which is kind of cool because the planet episodes are very cool because you get to see new worlds and often exciting new aliens and lots of action, but it also tends to separate the characters versus in this one. I mean, you did notice that Rygel barely features.
Yes, he's got a few tiny scenes, none of them important.
I sort of wonder if this was filmed at the same time as the last one. No. I think I know that it wasn't.
The grouping, yeah.
Yeah, I think I know that this wasn't. See, the second and the fourth episode were filmed by Pino Amento, who introduced sort of the comedy and the irreverence, all the wisecracking. That was sort of a Pino Amento innovation. This time around, we're getting Rowan Woods, who is going to stick with the show for dozens of episodes and introduces us to do you notice how different the tone was this time around? It was serious. It was a little dark.
Yeah.
It was a little it had an edge to it. There was menace. There were stakes.
Yes, it was a little bit Star Trek-y in a lot of ways, but I thought it was done in a lot way better than the most of the time travel episodes that you see in Star Trek.
How did you feel it was like Star Trek?
Well, more the whole setup concept of the way in which they're doing time paradox. Well, there wasn't really time paradox. It was just him getting time flashbacks, I suppose, during the episode.
Yeah,
and it felt like the basic plot of a Star Trek episode, but I thought it was done handled much better.
Prepare to starburst!
I think that's fair to say because they also start off with a weird phenomenon that the audience is aware of, but the characters aren't, and the characters gradually discover more about it.
It starts by the crew seeing a ship getting torn apart by something or the other. It's this weird green light, which made me immediately think it was a Romulan battlecruiser. But
yes, it's this weird sort of crumpling up tripod ship. I guess it would have had three.
Very hard to see.
I kind of wish that we got a better glimpse of this ship because it looks gorgeous.
Also, most epic eye roll ever from Tentacles right at the beginning. He's just like...
Yes. Dargo, I love that they're sort of trying to work out what to do. This is such an anti-Star Trek moment. There's a ship in distress, and now we're arguing about what we're going to do with it.
Rygel is like, leave him.
We'll drink to honor their memories later, but we leave here now.
Rygel and Dargo are like, it's only trouble, and Zhaan is trying to be compassionate.
But they may be survivors. Someone's still aboard.
And when Pilot asks, okay, so what we're doing, everybody says something different.
Yes.
Do we have a consensus?
Reverse course.
We leave here now.
Is there a problem?
I mean, I noticed that during the first part of the episode anyway, that Dargo was really acting like he was in charge. It's like he was a lot of things that he was like, oh, do as I say, and like even more so than usual, and people are actually getting along with it. And it's like, okay, who put you in charge? It's like, how did that suddenly happen?
Well, I guess he sort of asserted himself when he had the gauntlet on last time around. Now, obviously, like he was super overconfident.
They all got their turn at that.
Yeah, I guess that sort of unlocked it in him that he would like to be in charge. He would like for people not to argue with him. And to just be able to make these decisions.
But so we have the crew of the ship, and my first thought was like, oh, are these more Luxan? And
very good.
We later learned that they're not Luxan; they're Ilanic, who are apparently Luxan's genetic cousins or something along the lines.
I love that terminology.
Yes, genetic cousins. Yes.
Yeah, like it doesn't say anything about like what is it, an offshoot? An asteroid hit the planet Luxa and then land on Ilan and deliver some genetic material. No, it was whatever. Apparently that just happened.
That's just like they're genetic cousins from a different planet.
Because they have familiar features. They've got like tentacles off of their face. They've got tattoos.
With tentacles and tattoos all over his head.
They got a sort of nose bone. It's more integrated in the skin. It's a male and a female. And the female, she's wearing her tentacles pulled back with a sort of like, it sort of looked like a shuriken hairpin.
Oh,
when you get to see it from behind.
Yeah.
One thing that I noticed about the interior of the pod that they're in. Oh, actually, the pod in general. Mm-hmm. The pod is the same one that we saw last time. It was the bullet pod that the Tavlex were using as well.
Oh, okay.
And the interior is, the control panel is the same that we saw in the Peacekeeper command carrier.
Oh, the big round thing with the
big round thing.
They're
exactly.
Reusing props is always a good way to go about things.
I like to imagine. I mean, obviously, yes, you're completely right. They're reusing props. They're using their limited CGI budget to great effect. But if we do the Star Trek thing and take that what's on screen must be canon, then maybe these are just
generic pods. Yeah,
right?
Just like some cheap shuttle. Like these things are all over the place, and it's just
Peacekeeper cast off their last year's model. They flood the lease market.
Things a Hyundai. Why don't we stop playing hide and seek and just smoke them?
Or they even bought the Peacekeepers just have the military model of the same thing. It's like maybe it's the Hummer of space. It's like you can get the military model or you can get the civilian model.
Nice truck.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, this is hauling something quite different as they discover when it lands, and it's got this cool sort of landing gear where like an elevator emerges from the bottom. That
was kind of cool, which we don't at all see again because after that everybody is like always immediately in the cockpit. Where Crichton is like poking his nose around and he gets turned into the next Green Lantern.
I'm superior.
Oh no, wait, that's a difference.
I mean, you're not wrong. Like he walks into the cockpit of this shuttle and he notices this bin with glowing green energy. He's like, oh, what's this glowing green energy?
I'll stick my
hand on it because I'm a scientist and I know what to do.
By it.
I get zapped by some loose wire or something. You remember that?
Gets zapped by it. This energy like zaps into his seventh chakra right between the eyes.
Immediately gets his first time vision where Dargo is like stuck into a repeating loop almost, where he says the same thing 3 or 4 times. They make it look like he's a little bit delirious or something, but that's already the first sign that he's stuck with some sort of time effect.
Yeah. So Dargo, because these Ilanics are Luxan's genetic cousins, like he is totally team Ilanics. He is super on their side. He's incredibly respectful to them. He tries
offers them all the help they want, all the amenities and all the comforts that he can offer them, and he's like completely taken.
It's like a teenager's best friend's mother, I guess.
Does Mummy know your hair?
You know what I mean? Where you've got you have a sort of contentious relationship with your own parents, but when you're at your bestie's place, like you try to really show off
best behavior. Yeah, everything your parents taught you.
Hello, Mrs. Harrison.
Yes.
Oh yes, what a lovely dress you're wearing, Mrs. Harrison. Oh, In this case, Mrs. Matala. Oh, you're so lovely.
We got to get him away from Matala.
And we get a very nasty smirk from Earbrows, which was also a beautiful bit of puppetry done.
I know.
Yes.
The whole sort of, when Dargo turns around and decides we have to take them on board, he bullies Rygel into agreeing by grabbing his earbrows. And
yes.
Ooh, that's a nut squeeze.
It is a bit.
Those
it's like
are
Umaks, but then like a little bit more forceful.
Bad Umaks. And Zhaan finally gets to tell Pilot,
We have our consensus, pilot.
They have a little bit of a talk with the aliens here at this point. And here my first thought becomes like, okay, is this research they're supposedly been doing like cause of the accident they were having? Because they were like, oh,
why wasn't that like the first question? But I guess it's not Star Trek. You're completely right.
Yeah.
I mean, we get introduced to these two Ilanic aliens, and one of them is Verell. And do you notice how he doesn't move at all?
No.
Right?
Well, a little bit.
At first I thought like maybe it was dignity, or he had like a collar or something, but I think we see later on when he does move his head, the actor was very aware that his tentacles wiggle when he moves.
Ah, yes.
They wiggle and they're really stupid.
There's a lot of tentacle whipping going around during the fight scenes later, but yes.
Yes, which is fine and it looks cool, but so he realized I look like a bowl of jelly if I move my head even the slightest bit. So I'm just going to sit still, and everyone can move around me.
And I'm not going to move at all. Yes, and Crichton has his first wet daydream with the Luxans. Oh, sorry, not the Luxans. At this point, we know that they are called Ilanic, with the Ilanic lady. Yep. And it turns into quite a bit of a steamy scene there, where it's like down the pants groping, like, whoa, what's going on here?
Gross as well. Like he was not
enjoying
it.
No. He was like, this was like borderline rape.
Right.
Vibes that I was getting from that. Yeah, totally.
Because you'd think that this would be such an opportunity to do like a sexy, steamy scene and get everybody excited that way. But to play it like that, and he's even traumatized by it.
Yes.
He doesn't know how to talk to people about it. And it's not helped by the fact that she has a weird speech pattern at first.
She does. Not at all. It keeps up. She's got like this weird, almost like not quite Valley Girl uptalk thing that she's doing.
Half the shuttle's power conduits had ruptured.
I guess it's sort of like a phone sex line where she like these curious. I can't even do it.
She looked to me like I really knew her. I looked it up on IMDb and like I have no idea. I never saw anything else with she's in.
She's got one of those faces.
But somehow she seemed very familiar.
So do you watch a lot of television programs with women with large tentacles?
No, surprisingly.
Because maybe that's it.
Yes,
surprisingly few.
So the Luxan and the Ionic seem to be. Best allies.
Did you say Ionic or Bionic? Okay. So this is like that toy line, Ionicals.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And
hell, I'm getting that going to the Island of Misfit Toys thing.
Dargo is completely like still all over them. He's like, won't hear a bad word about them.
Me spaceship is Sue spaceship, Mr. and Mrs. Harrison. We're completely on your side. Whatever you need. They need to be brought to a rendezvous point where they're going to meet another.
Apparently, the bad guys, the what do they call them? The Scorvians, have like completely unprovokedly attacked the planet of the Ilanics, and
that seems to happen a lot.
Yeah, funny that
like Luxan and their genetic. It's just we have no choice but to retaliate.
It was a totally unprovoked attack, and now we have to attack and retaliate.
And I would have bought that if it wasn't for the conversation that Dargo and Aeryn had previously about the Grisoldans and how the Luxans felt that they were just completely overrun and with women and children being murdered, and of course then we had to murder their women and children.
I mean that's how it goes. Like one for tit for tat and an eye for an eye leaves everybody blind. I believe the phrase is.
Very good.
I'm sure the Grisoldians said the same thing.
And we have this little exchange in the shuttle between Matala and Aeryn.
I'm surprised that you haven't had a disrespectful
Matala. No, I haven't really come up with anything
for
yet.
her.
I mean,
okay, can we? I've got one.
Oh, go on then.
Ursula.
Ursula?
Because she's got tentacles.
Well, yes, okay, Ursula. From I assume we're talking
Little
about
Mermaid,
Little yes, okay. They have a little exchange in the shuttle, which Aeryn is trying to like investigate what's going on. And
it's a gorgeous shuttle, by the way. Do you notice how like the wall is studded leather? It's all red.
Leather? I mean,
yeah. Look at the sort of divots.
Yeah, that's not.
See, it's like cushioned, like quilting. Speaking of quilting, like the Ilanics are very well appointed. By the way, I noticed their outfits resemble Dargo's. They have the same sort of quilting and the sort of layering of flaps, the sort of quasi-Japanese thing that they've got going on.
And she is basically wearing a duvet tailored to her body at this point. It's like the way it's been the quilt stitching all over it. I noticed that as well.
I think everybody's wearing is getting to wear interesting stuff. Zhaan's got a new gown. She's got a...
Oh, yes, it's a little bit more involved rather than just a drapery with some jewellery on the shoulders.
Yes, because she did sort of look like a bit of a meringue, I've got to say, initially in her... Yeah, you know what I mean? In the sort of light blue, sort of wobbly gown. Now she's got like a more tighter-fitting undershirt and like an open, darker gown over that. And Aeryn gets to show off some midriff.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Looking good there.
In her black shirt. And even Crichton, he has a black T-shirt on.
Oh,
yeah,
he does have. Oh, yes, he does. Yeah,
a major change in his.
Later on, we see him back in his sleeveless NASA jacket again.
I still love that he's got one jacket and he rips the sleeves off to show off his guns.
Check it out.
Speaking of gun show, when Matala and Aeryn sort of confront each other, because Matala does not want Aeryn poking around her shuttle, they both sort of hiss and take combat stances.
Yes,
both showing excellent space, what's it called? Kamai.
Mantis style.
And you go, oh, you've had some training.
Little pokey thingy around, yes. Which comes back later in the episode.
Yeah, do you want to throw down?
Spar a little bit.
And I'm really in the mood for some physical activity.
Considering their animosity here, it seems like a little bit unusual that they would then go back later. And I was like, I guess starting to get suspicions about Matala having like some sort of influencing powers, which I at first thought that Crichton's flashbacks were, that she was like inflicting them on him or in some way.
Yes.
Because he gets another little unsexy flashback, really.
Kill my sex life now! Quick, shoot!
Where there's more molesting and he's being hauled up by the ankles, literally.
Yeah, she's very aggressive in those flash forwards.
Well, they are having a little house meeting at the table, minus tentacles, of course.
sort of like in the young ones, calling a house meeting to order.
There you go. Where Aeryn makes the brilliant comment that Dargo is being led around by the Mivonks, I believe she calls it.
Yes.
Mivonks.
She's clearly leading Dargo around by his Mivonks, and I think she's having some sort of an effect on you.
Yes,
Mivonks.
very good.
I mean, is that his little chin waggle thing that he's got going, or something? The chin straps?
No,
but it's like
he's got the tentas. He's got the what are Mivonks?
Maybe that's the Luxan version of the short and curlies. I mean, that's like clearly what's being hinted at here. But
right.
Yeah.
I noticed that as well in one of the sort of semi-sexy, scary flash forwards where Matala was forcing herself on John in his visions. Like there's a moment where she puts her hands down south, and there's a look of surprise on her face as she's encountered. Like, what was she expecting? She's probably expecting something quite different.
My Vonks, I suppose.
Where are your Mivonks? Wow, those are the smallest Mivonks ever. Where's your mating clasp? Where's your armored jaws?
Ooh, I don't want to think about that.
Well, he can't help it. Crichton can't. He's sitting there at the table during the roommates meeting, having these fantasies. So he finds Dargo and pulls him away from the company of Mr. and Mrs. Harrison.
Yes,
and Dargo's even so embarrassed. Like he's just trying to be cool. Like, oh, Crichton, oh, friend, hey.
Friend, Crichton.
It's so awkward around these people. He pulls them aside.
Hey, can I talk to you?
And ask him, okay, so Ilanics, do they have like mind powers or pheromones?
Yes, he starts asking about this, and because he's like clearly feeling influenced here at this point.
Yeah.
And I think this is also where he has the first flashback scene of where the male guy of the Ilanics, what's his name again?
Verell.
Verell. He's just stabbed by Dargo's bristle knife.
I liked how Crichton tried to eliminate those options first. Like his mind control is whatever. Is that
Do they have some sort of pheromone power and like? Dargo is like, no idea what you're talking about.
This is the scientific method. Like he's showing that just a little bit of his scientific prowess, and after he has another short flash forward of Aeryn, that then comes true. She comes around the corner and does the exact same thing. He's like, okay, I'm seeing the future. Right? He's figured it out.
Yes, he knows. Like that's actually It's like, am I seeing flashbacks? Is it the past? But no, they're actually future visions that we're seeing at this point.
So he's experimenting with it as well, like trying to figure out because as you say, he finds Verell dead in the future, that's going to be avoided. Not just Verell dead, but then he shortly after gets killed by Matala in that vision.
Which I think is very well done in this episode. Like, they edited very well.
I loved it so much as well. Like, it's played so straight because you get the initial flash forwards, you get these clues. Like, you get a sideways whip of the camera.
Yeah.
And we're constantly following John, and we're staying with his perspective. So we kind of think we have a handle on it, just like he has, until he experiments some more and he discovers that there's more to it.
And he starts trying to figure out what is happening with him, like what's going on.
He has a cool moment where he's sort of staring in the mirror, having seen his own death, and goes, "Okay, well, we don't want that now, do we?"
No, absolutely not.
Because he sees Matala do this, Ursula do this weird sort of putting her hand up like a scorpion tail,
which she'd already used in the shuttle in the beginning.
Yeah, she's got a very peculiar battle stance. Now, of course, this is because, like, this actress and Claudia Black, who plays Aeryn Sun, none of them had done a lot of action before. They didn't have, like, combat training.
I mean, so like, with Aeryn, like, she's built. She's, like, nice and trim. I mean, she must have, like, done some training for that. Yeah.
She's a fit woman, but she didn't come in with like a kung fu experience or any of those stances. So they were kind of just inventing it on the spot, which you can sort of see when they're having their duel a little later on.
Yes, it's a bit of a slap fight.
Yeah, and Matala's doing this weird sort of interpretive penchak silat jazz ballet, sort of wobbling back and forth like she's a luchadora.
And Aeryn seems to be well in control of that match until she gets taken out by a bit of a cheap shot, I would say, almost.
I thank you for the exercise.
Again, she does that whole arm high of the head thing and the lips drawn back in a brilliant Karen pose. And
yes, the sort of
I want to talk to your manager. And basically slaps her out and just leaves her there. It's like, which is a bit odd, you know.
Lying on a fantastic carpet.
Yes.
Now, I guess I'd spoiled that for you before, because I've told you before that the Peacekeeper sort of aesthetic is based on like Bolshevik constructivist design. And the Peacekeeper logo that we see from above is based on a...
so did she have that training rug in her spaceship or something? Or did she have Moya make it? Or where did that come from?
I guess it was on board Moya already because it was a Peacekeeper. Peacekeepers were using it.
Moya was used as a prisoner transport. So yeah, I guess the Peacekeepers could have brought it on board before that. Yeah, I forgot about that.
So this is based on a piece of art that I recognized because I did one semester of European cultural history. It's based on a piece called Beat the Whites with the Red Wedge by L. Lizitsky. And it's a little bit more complicated than this. There's more sort of red stripes and fractions. And it was sort of to symbolize like the defeat of a Tsarist Russia by communism.
I'll have to take a look at the original sometime. I'm curious to see it now.
So this, I mean, it's a slap fight. It's kind of sexy. Ursula, she's wearing like a rubber black shirt.
Yes,
in a sort of unitard calisthenics outfit. But yeah, Aeryn is using this. Like, her whole thing is to just bully Matala until she responds, in this case with like the Scorvian neural stroke that she then recognizes.
Yeah, later on, a few scenes later, she'll have figured out that like Matala is a insurgent.
Matala is not Ilanic, she is Scorvian.
Because of the technique she used in this fight.
Exactly.
How do you know this? Because she fights like a Scorvian.
Very clever,
She fights like a Scorvian.
We have a little scene with the scientist coming up again, and at this point I'm just starting to like wonder what's going on, because his speech pattern changes very much.
Yeah.
It seemed to me like it did. Like he was talking like a ventriloquist dummy.
Okay, yeah.
And it really jumped out at me that he was like talking with clipped words and like he's being controlled. And that's, again, like at this point I was still thinking that Matala was doing the mind control thing or something, which kind of
the reality is that he just didn't want his tentacles to wiggle. He realized he had them on his chin as well. Just gotta sit there still. Act with my eyes.
We have a little bit of a useless scene with Rygel, one of his only scenes where he's somehow decided to go on a eating binge.
Must you gibber while I'm eating?
Yeah.
He's scoffing down it. I think the excuse was that Dargo was giving them so many of their rations that he was like afraid of getting left out, so he was going to eat all of his own rations. So
something like that. And he spends like the whole episode binging.
Eating, and it's like doesn't really have any contribution to the entire affair.
No, which I guess is just a convenient way to just indicate Rygel is not going to take part in this episode. It's going to be a Rygel light episode while everybody else gets to walk around like bipeds.
Meanwhile, the scientist gets murdered again.
I love how he gets murdered. He's got the knife sticking out of his back and it's just face first into his holographic research. Yep. It looks kind of dumb while he's just lying there in his dinner.
Which turns out to be yet another flashback because we find...
flash forward.
Sorry,
flash
you're
forward.
Right.
No, I know.
Because it's called back and 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 back to the future.
Yes, that's right.
Excuse me?
I don't think we even mentioned the name of this episode, yeah.
Oh dear, maybe we're having flash forwards to next week's episode and we're recording this last week.
Whoa.
But yes, turns out that Crichton is actually face down in Rygel's food rather than...
Yes.
I'm on a super lunatics.
He shoves Rygel, who needs who's choking on a chunk of food cube. He needs a Hynerian Heimlich.
Yes. At which point, for the first time, they're starting to notice that something's up with Crichton at this point. It's like they've been... Zhaan is now finally starting to wise up to the fact that something is funny with Crichton.
You are very odd, Crichton.
Aeryn tells
Other than usual, yes.
When he leaves the house meeting and he goes, I need some air. And Aeryn goes,
we have air at home.
We have air in here. What is the matter with him?
He is Crichton.
And even when eventually Zhaan is convinced and she tries to tell Aeryn, oh, he's having flashes of the future.
The future? You can barely function
in the
present. Yes. They are slagging him off quite a lot, aren't they? He is the
if you look at
little human, I suppose.
If you look at his conduct so far, he's had some successful breakthroughs, but a lot of his time is spent bumbling. In the previous episode as well, he's and this is also something that's starting to bother him. We saw that in a little bit in Exodus from Genesis, where he talks to Zhaan about how he feels like a bumblebrain. He doesn't know how to open a door. But you notice his relationship with Dargo is changing as well. Dargo accuses him of being attracted to Matala and bullies him around.
Crichton, you disgust me. Do you think this clumsy ruse will turn me away from Matala?
No. It's not a ruse. Look, I know it sounds crazy, but...
You want her, and you do anything to get her.
I do not want Matala.
And as usual, John sort of backs away, but eventually, he barks right back.
Oh yeah, he gets
when
right
he's pushed
back in his
far
face.
enough.
Yeah.
Open your ears or your tentacles or whatever orifice it is you listen with. I think the woman is dangerous.
He actually meets Dargo at his own level, I think is how Ben Browder described it.
And he'll start to stand up to him and will not be bullied around anymore, I suppose.
And Dargo responds to that.
Well, yes, positively. I guess he has the whole warrior race thing going for him where they kind of have respect for that kind of thing.
I think it's also that he respects someone who shows their emotions.
Oh, okay.
Right? He sort of has trouble with Zhaan a little bit. He does a lot better with Aeryn. Even though he's aggressive toward her, she's aggressive back. That's good enough for him.
Yeah, we have common ground. And speaking of Zhaan and emotions,
oh yeah,
he's John's having a little sit down with Zhaan to talk about things, and he just idly picks up this blue mask which is standing on a pedestal and promptly drops it.
I'm sorry.
That's all right, John.
This gorgeous blue mask,
and you can see the flash of disappointment on Zahn's face, and then the calmness of it's okay. It's
okay. She just remembers. She's about to berate him. She remembers. No, I'm a 9th level priest. No,
yes, exactly.
9th level priests don't do that. If I was 8th level, I would have ripped your Mivonks off. But no, you're lucky.
Even then, it's you get this sense of I guess an inner peace or something when it happens around the house as well. When someone when a good friend something happens by accident and even something dear to you, you have that flash of disappointment, but then you don't want
it just happens,
and you don't want them to feel bad about it because it was clearly not intentional. So no, it's okay, don't worry about it.
And it's so much easier to do that for somebody else than for yourself. If you accidentally drop something, you'll berate yourself for days.
You'd be kicking your ass. Can I be so stupid and do that? But
what did you think that mask was, by the way?
I
don't know, but
it has the same shade of blue that she does, so I assumed it was some sort of religious significance. Or
even if a humanoid face.
Even if it was a religious thing that she's a priest of, that's never really made clear.
Right.
Yeah, there's another little flash forward scene where there's more confrontation with Mala and Matala. Sorry, there's no lionesses in this one. Yeah,
I can see what's happening,
and they don't have a clue. Well, that's actually quite appropriate here.
Right? Okay. Okay, so who's Timon and who's Pumbaa? No, obviously Crichton is Timon and Pumbaa is Dargo. I don't even need to ask the question.
Yeah, that's very true. Where Matala pulls a clever little thing when John picks up a block or something, and she just has a little fainting spell just as Dargo comes in. And Dargo then runs Crichton through with his sword.
Oh, yes, a sword. Thank you. That'll be really helpful.
Yes.
And it flashes back to the mask dropping on the ground again, and this was another flash forward.
Yes. Now, this was brilliant, because we finally saw him convince Zhaan that he was having these visions.
Premonitions. Future flashes. The concept is a fascinating one.
And it was after he came out of a vision that he dropped the mask, and then he realized, okay, I've got to do something about it. I know what's going to happen. I know that Matala is going to murder Verell. Yep. I'm going to stop it. He gets there too late. He tries to stop her anyway. She has a brilliant plan to make Dargo kill him. She kills Dargo anyway, and he's back to the present. Turns out this was all a fake out. So just by how straight it had been played so far, this
it was
sort
very
of
well
trickery.
Done. Aeryn walks in on the conversation, also notes her suspicion about Matala.
She's so proud that she's figured it out.
And Crichton already knows, which even more convinces Zhaan that what Crichton is saying is actually correct, that he is actually seeing the future, because he really knows things that he has no way of knowing.
He says he is experiencing the future.
Yes, this is actually where we also learned that Drago's sword is called a Qualta blade.
Qualta blade, yes, that's right.
Which is more played for a gun in this episode, other than that one part where it gets stabby teeth through Crichton.
Dargo skewers me with his Qualta blade.
Hey, this is the first time it's used as a fucking sword. Did you know this?
Yes, and apparently it's good enough to stab humans with, so...
Dargo runs him through. He says, Crichton says, after he comes out of the flash forward, that he could feel it, slicing through his gut.
I just felt the blade slice through my guts, okay?
That must be a very unpleasant sensation.
And apparently also Matala can draw it and immediately convert it into his rifle configuration very quickly.
Yes, it goes a lot faster than he did it in the previous episode when we first saw that.
He's lubed it up with his crusty dishcloth.
Don't say that word.
So Crichton comes out of this flash forward. I mean, he's lost a lot of the progress that he'd made in the previous flash forward.
Look, I've already lived through all this.
Like, he'd convinced Zhaan, he'd largely convinced Aeryn. Now, he is just so frustrated having to have this conversation over again. He doesn't do as good a job convincing Zhaan this time around.
No, I guess not.
Been there, done that. It's not going to work.
And he has to rely on them trusting him, even though he puts the mask down on the ground
and crushes it. I thought that was symbolic of him trying to change the future.
Yeah,
because
he's
seen two ways in which it doesn't work, and they realize that the key is always Dargo, who needs to be removed from Matala. Like, they need to split them up, and that's the key to changing the future,
to doing something different.
Yeah, and I guess crushing the mask is because it broke and fell the first two times. He feels it might still need to break, but it has to become a deliberate act rather than an accident.
What does that feel like to Zhaan?
I don't know. Yeah, it's
because he makes hardcore eye contact with her. I've got this precious thing, and I'm going to put it down. I'm just going to look at you, and I'm going to break
on it.
It's who's your god now?
Yes, it's harsh.
It's really don't fuck with me.
Yep, they construe a clever little ploy.
It's brilliant.
In which they say that Rygel came up with a bill that the two Ayalas Yogans Ilanics, thank you.
I'm so glad you haven't gone for the other one yet.
Need to pay. And Dargo does another brilliant eye roll, and I was like, I'll talk to him. That's not going to happen. They're still my friends, and we're not going to charge them anything. So
I've explained this to him before. I will explain it to him again.
But it's actually just a lure to get him to the bridge where he can be trapped in another house meeting.
To convince him what's going on.
They all work together. They share the information that they have. Dargo doesn't believe them until Crichton asks to talk to Dargo alone.
Let me talk to him in private.
Yes, and asks him about the crime that he's committed, and confronts him with the fact that you've been telling porkies.
The crime that you've been keeping secret from everybody on board this ship.
Because Crichton has seen a flash forward where he saw a Dargo confiding in Matala.
Yes,
and so he's overheard this.
I can never join you. I can't really go back because of the heinousness of my crime or whatever it is.
Yeah,
it gets
which we still don't know.
No, we don't even know what he's claiming that he was in for, let alone what he was actually caught for.
Oh, that's an interesting point. I wonder if I go back in the editing, whether through the magic of editing, I'm able to retrieve.
I killed a fellow soldier.
I don't think it was mentioned.
I killed my commanding officer.
Oh, that's what it was. I'm just giving us some options for which to edit together.
Oh, yeah. Huh. Must have completely slipped me by. And this is where it turns out that we are actually getting confused, because this is like, with all the flash forwards going by, I just realized that this is the one after which he steps on the mask rather than the one we were talking about before.
He drops it twice, and then, during the last cycle, like, he tries to, Okay, so... How does it go? He talks to Zhaan. Then he has a flash forward. He gets killed by Dargo. Comes back into Zhaan's room, drops the mask. Another flash forward where he convinces, where he talks to Aeryn. They try to convince Dargo. He tries to...
The scientist gets murdered again.
Yes, exactly.
Matala runs off with the research, jumps in the shuttle. Aeryn shoots the shuttle.
And
everything explodes.
And then third flash forward back in the present.
That's where the mask gets destroyed.
It's simple.
Simple as that.
Simple?
It's not nearly as simple as that.
Well, gets destroyed is generous. I still say, like, he just looks Zhaan in the eyes.
It destroys it.
You're going to stop me? You're going to stop me?
Yeah.
I'm crazy.
And he crushes it.
And now he knows, like, all of these things really can't be done. So they have the house meeting with Dargo. God.
They lure him out with the fake bill that Rygel supposedly has made, and they have another house meeting, yes.
And now that Crichton has convinced Dargo by telling him about this crime that he couldn't possibly have known, now Pilot informs them that an Ilanic cruiser, and there's another cool hologram on the table.
Oh, yes.
And well, it looks Ilanic on the outside, but so does Matala.
Yes, and when they eventually do make radio contact, there's a convenient problem with their transmitter array, so all you see is static and you can't see what the crew actually looks like.
As Dargo predicted. Like, Scorpions look...
Nothing like Ilanics. If they refuse to make visual contact, you have your answer.
So Aeryn knows what's up.
In which case I start dodging.
She does her own eye roll and a resting what face, and she gets the joy ball for manual control of Moya to do evasive maneuvers to prevent them from getting a weapons lock. Apparently she can do that.
Which is a little bit odd, because there's like not much you can do in the way of maneuvering in space unless you have something to maneuver around.
Yeah, right.
Dive straight into the atmosphere.
You're always going to be within line of sight of whatever.
That's what I mean. And there's yet another showdown in the scientist lab, where in this case, Matala actually starts holding our scientist guy hostage using that knife that we saw sticking out of his back earlier. And
it's
this is where
her bris knife. It's her Scorpion bris knife.
That's the one.
And now her accent changes again, because it definitely has changed several times over the...
And now it's become very, very hissy and serpent-like almost.
Skeksis.
Yes.
Yes.
Drop the rifle. Kick it towards me now.
Like, she started like phone sex.
Rest and revitalize.
And then halfway through, while she was battling with Aeryn, it was almost like an Australian trying to do an American accent, and like all of that sex line was gone.
And I'm really in the mood for some physical activity.
And now she's full on Skeksis.
No!
Get back. Healing.
Matala.
Dargo.
There's another big fight. The rifle gets thrown about a bit. A little bit of bashing going on. I like how Matala completely ignores John. She's like, pays him no heed whatsoever. Just runs straight past him, and with the stolen research.
He's not the threat.
Nope.
But her success is short lived, because Verell, with his dying breath, goes, "Must stop, black hole.
Must destroy."
It releases the containment field on the black hole.
Containment field, I think, is generous. I mean, this was something that I noticed as when Crichton was exposed. Their containment for this black hole weapon
a drawer.
They've just got a black hole bin that says "Do not open."
Do not open black hole inside.
Don't black open hole.
That's the one.
That's a fun little reference. And we get a last shot of Matala's face, and I've got to say, like, I really liked her look. Like, she's proper alien with the tentacles sort of bound behind her. She's got like when you look up close, you can see she's got a little shell over her nose, just a little bit of a shell, and above that she's got like a guitar pick bindi between her brows. The shuttle starts to collapse under the weight of this particle of black hole.
Disappears
Moya,
in another flash of green light, and Moya starbursts out just in time.
As the Ilanic cruiser, or the Scorpion cruiser, is also slurped up by this. These special effects are so gorgeous.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic, beautiful.
99 this was.
Yeah. Boom. Looking at Moya coming out of starburst, that lace of blue light switches all over her hull. It looks stunning.
And the sort of like there's even some like bits of animation, like the nose cone retracts. The nose cone extends when she travels through the through starbursts.
I hadn't noticed. I hadn't seen that yet. I'll have to watch that again.
Well, it is her only defensive maneuver, so she's definitely going to do it again sometime.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that starburst is the way to get out of it. I mean, is it? What is it? Is it just like hyperdrive or something?
I can tell you, like this is deep lore. So I don't know if it really comes up, but it's different from a wormhole. That's really important.
Yeah.
So it is transitioning from 3-dimensional space into 1-dimensional space and gliding along a 1-dimensional vector.
Okay.
So the portal that you're seeing is actually kind of like a 2-dimensional collapse membrane that Moya is able to sort of squeeze herself down into. Yeah, and as a 1-dimensional object containing all of its 3-dimensional information, it experiences all the inertia but none of the drag of real space.
Okay.
And that's why like the entry vector and exit vectors are semi-random. Like when you observe something going into starburst, you have a decent idea of roughly which direction it's going, but not where it's going to stop or which direction it's going to exit. It's cool, right?
Yes.
It's cool.
I also noticed that everything immediately after the starburst was all shot at a bit of a Dutch angle, when everything is a little bit crooked
where the camera is a little bit tilted.
Yes, one seems to be shaken by the experience nonetheless. And another scene with Rygel, like
a little camper
comments about his food, who's been just like binging himself. I think he looks a bit fatter even at the end of this episode.
He's completely overstuffed.
Tail end of a food binge, I'm afraid. Very difficult to stop when you get going.
Crichton gets he's clearly minging or burping. Crichton kind of,
Gee, what is that smell?
Dargo comes walking in.
They're both grabbing a snack. Did you notice? Like, Crichton comes in and there's sort of like a hatch that he lifts and there's a tray under it that he expects just to have food. So I guess
Dargo goes to some sort of cabinet or something.
The fridge.
Yeah. And they have a little bonding moment about how long it's been since they've been with a female or something like that.
Oh, I thought that was actually quite nice because Dargo is opening up to Crichton.
Okay.
And I think this is something that I've never really noticed before as I was watching it through. Like I've noticed it now, how sensitive Dargo is, even in these early episodes.
Okay.
Do you remember that like when Crichton overreacted in frustration in the previous episode, and then Dargo it's with the space bugs and everything was getting up. And then Dargo comes on, hey, we're all frustrated.
We're all hot.
He's the voice of reason, which is so unusual. Yeah. And this time around, even though like they've been bickering, and Crichton doesn't really feel that they're closer, Dargo stops and he tells Crichton, I'm not usually affected by females in a crisis.
It has been so long.
He wants Crichton's respect.
Yeah, I suppose.
Which he hasn't wanted before, hasn't,
Yeah, and Crichton goes like, oh, I can understand. Like, I feel your pain.
Oh, that. I understand.
I feel your blue Mivonks.
Oh, God. And in the nick of time, you've named this episode.
Oh, my.
Crichton takes a swig from his NASA water bottle.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, it's like a nice aluminum water bottle. I guess he's
combining all the...
He's holding onto it as a memento or something. And it's like again a little bit of almost a downer end to the episode, ending on a down note.
A little bit of melancholy.
Yeah.
Now we've had that before, like that was with IET, Little House,
and the last episode as well.
Yeah, where it sort of ends with Crichton's melancholy,
a little reflective, almost sad moment. So one other thing that I noticed during this episode, which somehow hasn't come up, is I believe it is Zhaan who at some point mentions that, I don't remember who, has been on board Moya for longer than anybody except Pilot.
Rygel.
Right. And she says it in such a way that, to me, almost suggests that the Pilot isn't part of Moya.
You've been aboard Moya longer than anyone else except Pilot.
Right.
Because the fact that if he was part of Moya, then it would be a given that he is. There might still be symbiotes or something, but I guess they're not like he's not actually a part of Moya. So that's at least my current running theory.
No, but this is great, and you should definitely like. I'm really keen to see what this looks like through your eyes, because it is such a cool thing to discover. Like you're getting to experience essentially like 4 years of internet forums in the early 2000s. But it's just you and me, so there's fewer people like calling you a Nazi or
or an idiot, or just like read the manual, or
or are you even a fan? Do you even lift, bro?
Oh dear, that's like.
Do you even skate, bro? Oh. Well, I do.
We call ourselves scapers now, I guess.
Scapers is the thing.
Manscapers,
Yeah.
or like fanscapers.
Fanscapers. Why did we name this podcast that?
That would have been a good one, yes.
Oh my God, can we still change it?
Oh,
Can we change it to fanscaping?
It would be a lot of work to go back through all the
Okay,
intros.
well, let's see if we can summon, like, if we open the black hole bin, and we can go back and back and back to the future and replace all the... Yeah, if you don't hear this, then we've replaced it to fanscaping.
It's always been called fanscaping. Now you know why. Now we told you.
I for real can't believe that we didn't call it manscaping. So good. Well, whatever. We live with what we got. We can barely function in the present, let alone the future. Something to look forward to. But in the meantime, that's the story so far, Farscape.
We'll see you next week with episode 106. Thank God it's Friday again.
Yes.
When the crew visits a planet full of happy workers, and soon Dargo and Zhaan start working and refuse to return to the ship. Meanwhile, Rygel's body fluids become explosive, and Aeryn and pilots must learn why before Rygel dies.
I forgot about that episode. You can find us at SoFarscape on Twitter and Facebook, and on sofarscape.com, and wherever you get your podcast. I'm Kaki.
I'm Kay.
So Farscape, so good.